Question 2, chapter review from the text from 1 to 9. Chapter 1, what is evaluation? Whatever is the reason for an evaluation, it involves a process of systematic collection and analysis of data. It may be done to gauge if and to what extent objectives are met. Else it may be done to make a decision. Understanding the definition makes it easier to consider your reasons. For example, why would you want to see if objectives are fully met? If they were met, then maybe the program is effective in satisfying an organization's needs and having the kind of impact on behaviors and attitudes of its staff. This leads into looking at the role of stakeholders in the process, since each has a focus and an expectation of the evaluation outcomes. The more involved in the process are the stakeholders, the more likely they are to have buy-in. Chapter 2. Why evaluate often relates to who requires or benefits from it. Program sponsors need to know if their resources are or will be deployed optimally, and stakeholders can benefit from program adjustments or even its abandonment or from the professional dialogue about the program. While the benefits of an evaluation seem obvious, I was also very interested in how the limitations and other considerations impact on a successful process. Evaluation threatens people who interpret its purpose as punitive or disruptive. If the evaluator is not credible, then the report is less likely to be acted upon. These two examples show from early the need to have skillful evaluators to have the best outcomes. Chapter 3. While many people preconceive evaluation as a summative exercise, a chapter highlight was involving the evaluator throughout the program cycle. Including evaluators early on can produce a more streamlined, robust design by having evaluation activities built in that are well suited to the particular audiences who will receive reports. Formative evaluation during the program cycle tweaks it along the way. By the time the summative evaluation happens, the process should be fairly stable and impacts and outcomes can be assessed and also form the basis for decision making. Chapter 4, the Evaluator's Program Description, or EPD, is a framework for the process, setting out goals, objectives, the activities to reach the objectives, and the measurements to be used. The actual design depends on the recipient, so an evaluator may have quite a task creating EPDs to match the requisite variations in its parts. However, creating it needs a deep understanding of the program, of stakeholder needs and perspectives, and it builds a relationship between the evaluator and the recipients. That relationship of trust and inclusion is most critical to getting full understanding and better program design. Chapter 5, Evaluation Models. Out of the models discussed, I was most intrigued by the goals-free model, which collects data on what happens to evaluate how important those activities or processes are to the needs of the client. I think this model makes most testing of an evaluator's skills. If, as argued, the internal evaluator may find it difficult to divorce himself or herself from the intrinsic goals of the program, then an external evaluator may miss critical nuances in the field. However, the latter is most recommended, so the focus is on reporting outcomes. This model is in contrast to most other models, which use standards or goals of the programs to determine the extent to which they are met. Chapter 6, Data Sources. The logic model at the beginning of the chapter simplified the essential evaluation components into input, output, and outcomes. By knowing what needs to be measured, decisions can be made about how to do it. Qualitative data sources usually produce nominal and ordinal data via surveys, interviews, scales, and case studies. From these, attitudes, first-hand impressions, and behaviors can be elicited. Data from quantitative sources are used to predict, establish numeric facts, and show causal relationships. The interval and ratio data, which show equally spaced rank order without and with an absolute zero, are derived from quantitative data. Designing data collection instruments is a skill in itself. For example, in survey items, reducing bias, ambiguity, and complexity of language call for thought and review. Chapter 7, Data Analysis. Data analysis is the manipulation of the data collected to make meaningful statements about the program. By trying to find out what most of the data suggests, central tendency measures of mean, median, and mode can be applied. Where it is important to see how much the data are similar or different to each other, then variability tests such as quartiles and standard deviation are used. To me, data analysis distills the elements of the process to extract the essence, which will become the recommendations for the recipients. Chapter 8, Evaluation or Research. Research and evaluation are difficult to separate sometimes because both examine and attempt to understand. The procedure, nature, and purpose of the examination help distinguish the two. Research parameters are more controlled, with the aim of predicting causal relationships or expanding knowledge in a field. Evaluation provides information so that programs can change. Humaitis and Dutwin, 2011. Responses from samples generalize for the entire population, but for research, the sample selection and how it is administered must be rigidly controlled. In evaluation, responses from respondents can also suggest inferences for the population. Chapter 9, the Evaluation Report. A clearly structured evaluation report communicates regardless of the audience, whether it is technical staff, administrators, laymen, or teenage clients. The focus differs according to what the clients want from the evaluation process. A financial department wants to know the cost effectiveness, while a user may put efficiency at a premium. Therefore, more than one report may have to be prepared. The evaluator must maintain objectivity in presenting the results to encourage accepting and implementations of the recommendations.